that cliff edge moment where you suddenly feel like you have nothing. From going to not everything, but going to potentially having things, to actually realising you've got nothing, feeling like you've got nothing. And that's when you're at your lowest moment. And that helped me, actually, in hindsight, that moment and that time helped me get back confidence in medicine, and get me confidence in my life, and get me confidence in all aspects. And that's what's helped me sort of get back into medicine now and do it as a job that I actually enjoy.
Amos Madra.
Dr. Francis DaSilva, the miracle man.
Yeah.
You've got a remarkable story from despair, hopelessness, to turning everything around, a complete metamorphosis, if ever I've seen. What a change. I saw your photos, before and after. And, usually when we think about GPs, doctors, these are people who normally have it all together. But your story is a reminder that we are all human, and we go through despair, we go through hopelessness, and we go through challenges. But how you turned around, that is something else. It's an incredible journey, an incredible story, very inspirational. So a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you, Amos, and thank you for that speech to start off with. That's the hope of it all, to be honest, is just to give people a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration, and show what can be done even at your lowest points.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting how you found poetry, something that you loved and enjoyed as a child, and it was the very thing that got you out of your despair.
Definitely. It's strange because when I was sort of 11 years old, I was good at school and academically, mostly because I worked quite hard at it, but English wasn't one of my strengths. And English literature, I didn't particularly enjoy at first. And the thing that turned it around for me is one of my English GCSE teachers from one of my courseworks. I think maybe a lot of us did this in the time. I used to get a thesaurus and use it for everything. So in literally every word I'd look up, a bit like, I don't know if you've seen Friends, Joey does it in an episode of Friends where he sort of Googles every word, puts in the thesaurus, to the point where the whole article makes no sense because you've changed the meaning of every single word. And my teacher just said to me, just write what you feel. Don't think too much about it, just write about it. And the next essay I wrote was a piece called Home. And it was about sort of my appearance, where my home is, what I feel my home is about. And that got put up in my school because my teacher was so impressed with it. And after that, I just thought, you know what, I don't need to try to be something I'm not. Just write what I feel like writing, and that would do the talking, as it were.
Yeah, and it's interesting, as life goes on, you go, things change, new priorities come into place, your medical career, marriage, so many things, and I suppose poetry took a back seat.
Yes, I think it did. I think, like you said, getting pizzas delivered outside and then just revising 24/7 just to get the pass mark, because it's that difficult. And a lot of us failed at times. And I think medical school was one of the reasons that took a lot of confidence out of me, because you went from being in school where you were a relatively high achiever to actually being in a massive pool again, where you're at best average at times and at worst coming close to the bottom. So it kind of humanized you again, and it humbled you in probably too much of a way, in the sense that it took away any ebbs of confidence you had. And that, combined with when you actually do the job, can cause catastrophic results sometimes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You never really hear that side of the story. The difficulties and the, again, dent in confidence. And I suppose, it's a fact, isn't it? So many people want to become doctors, but firstly, you've got to achieve those high grades. And then when you get there, you're in a pool of talented individuals who all want to achieve the same thing. And even though you were above average in school, suddenly you find yourself in a position where you've got to really compete, and yeah, that can knock your confidence. Talk to us about the period coming out of medical school, going into work, getting married, and then, what happened from there?
I think I didn't really adjust after medical school, and it's difficult for any junior doctor. That's why I always have sympathy for any junior doctor when they start, because one day you're literally a medical student, and the next day you're handed this bleep, and it could be a cardiac arrest, it could be really unwell patients, people with respiratory failure, dying patients, and you've gone from being a student and reading and practicing it a little bit to actually having all that responsibility and seeing people die in front of you. In the first week, you might see people physically die in front of you, which you may have not seen so much as a medical student. You still have some protection. And that is a huge amount of pressure to have as a 22, 23, 24-year-old. And that I never really managed to cope with that. I think I assumed wrongly that a lot of my achievements in life were down to luck. So even getting through medical school was luck. And it's a bit like when people talk about imposter syndrome, you don't feel like you earned it, you don't feel like you deserve to be there. So I really struggled as a junior doctor. I never fully got on top of it. And after my first year, I actually quit. Not many people know. I quit medicine. I said, that's it. Don't want to do this anymore. This isn't what I wanted it to be. This isn't what I expected it to be. I'm out. I need to do something else, because it's causing me so much harm, because I want to do my best and I feel like I can't, because I'm in a system where it's always overwhelmed. The NHS is always overwhelmed. Now it's overwhelmed. Then it was overwhelmed. And in the future, it will be overwhelmed. And that makes you feel overwhelmed. And that's a horrible feeling. It's that feeling that I talk about a lot, is that feeling of drowning. And at that point in my life, putting aside any personal issues that were going on, medical school, almost being a junior doctor, almost enough, was overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And it's that repetitive cycle which you almost cannot get out of. It's just a continuous nightmare. You're still working in medicine. How have you managed to get that balance?
So that year out, I came back in and I solved some of the issues I had when I came back in, some of the anxiety, some of that confidence. But then my personal life took a hit. I'd been in a relationship for 10 plus years. I was married, and suddenly that came to an abrupt end. And I'm never quite sure what the reason for that was. I think some of it was relating to my confidence, and I was struggling a bit. But I think it was the suddenness of it all that really hit me. And I was already struggling with confidence, and that was the final straw for me. We just had a house together. We were planning to have kids together. And it just went from feeling like everything potentially could be in place to everything is completely gone. And that sudden hit can really hit you. And it really did hit me that day. And it's something I've spoken about in the past, about that cliff edge moment where you suddenly feel like you have nothing, from going to not everything, but going to potentially having things, to actually realizing you've got nothing and feeling like you've got nothing. And that's when you're at your lowest moment. And that helped me, actually, in hindsight, that moment and that time helped me get back confidence in medicine, get me confidence in my life, and get me confidence in all aspects. And that's what's helped me sort of get back into medicine now and do it as a job that I actually enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's repurposed you, and, again, giving you that energy and drive to help and to serve. And you certainly do that. You serve and you help people, not just as a doctor, but just who you are, your own journey, your story.
Yeah.
Going back to your personal life, that was, a very dark moment, a very dark period. You said your confidence was low. Suddenly your marriage ends. You've been planning this marriage, you've been planning this relationship, you've got a mortgage, and you're planning the future, and it just all ends. And it just, for you, it went from one drastic, I'm talking physically here now, you put on a whole lot of weight, completely let loose, and it was you were going downhill really fast.
Oh, definitely. It was a spiral. It was a spiral that, looking back, had been going on over the years, over a couple of years, but it was something that, you're going down a curve and then suddenly you just drop. And that sudden drop was the thing that I think impacts a lot of people. It's that hopelessness that you mentioned. That I think it's a sudden drop. You can feel, most people can cope with that gradual decline, but when you get a few strong hits on top of that, it's really difficult to sometimes fight back from that.
Yeah. I mean, looking at you now, it's hard to believe the person that you were before. I mean, you were morbidly obese, you were, talk to us about that period. And
I think even when I used to go to my GP, he did my BMI once. He weighed me and checked me, and he told me I was obese, but it didn't register. And I can see why when people come to see me, it doesn't register sometimes, because I wasn't really listening. I was sort of so preconceived with, because I was quite thin growing up, I always wanted to put on weight. And obviously I took it to an extreme, and compound that with stress eating a lot from after work, and my diet was pretty appalling, and I would never encourage that to anybody else, because it was a lot of pizzas, takeaways, and just vending machines, because I felt at the time I needed to eat to fuel me to do my job. And I still do that now, but in a much healthier way. But I was still exercising then, but without any goals in place. It was just exercising because I enjoyed picking something up and putting it back down. And I still enjoy that now, but I have goals to do with that in mind.
Talk to us about that, because it sounds like being intentional, having that goal is a target to shoot at, rather than just, again, as you said, just picking up dumbbells or whatever, just doing a bit of exercise.
I think that's sometimes when I go to the gym now, one of my favorite parts is people do look at me, people do come to talk to me, which is nice. And then one of the first things I take out my phone and go, this is what I looked like before. And they're like, wow. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. It's my pictures, it's on my phone. It looks nothing like you. Your face doesn't even look the same. I'm like, and then I show them like my birthmarks, and I show like different marks on my face. I go, yeah, it's me. And they go, wow. And then they go, that's giving me hope. And they say, how long did it take? And I say, 2 years. And they go, oh, because in the modern day, 2 years is a long time. For modern day people, they want results in 6 months. They want results in 6 weeks. I'm like, you can if you want, but I've did it through 2 years. And because I did it through 2 years, it's maintainable within reason. I don't look like, Captain America all the time, but I'm within a striking range of that. And I enjoy it. It's part of my life. It wasn't a quick fix. And goal setting is really important in terms of lifestyle. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's a long process where you're learning every single moment of the time. And what my goals are now and what my goals are before are not the same, because the time frame taken to achieve them are not the same anymore. But when I did try to lose weight, I didn't have a certain physique in mind. At the time, it was a bit like my poetry, it was my coping mechanism. It was my way not to sit in a room and think about things, because I would just start crying. It was my way to just distract myself from life outside of my job. It was ironic in the sense that I felt before that time I didn't like being at work, but during that time I would prefer to be at work, because there are people around you, there's noise, there's not the silence of four walls and a TV which you can't concentrate watching. So exercise was one of my best friends, and I still say exercise is one of my best friends, because it never lets me down. If I don't go to the gym, that's on me. But the weights are always there, the equipment's always there, my friend is always there if I need it. It's whether I choose to engage with them is my choice.
That's a great way of putting it. It's a great perspective, isn't it? It's a friend who's always on hand waiting, and it's on you if you don't turn up.
Yeah.
When, again, going back to the goals, you exercised, and again, setting the goals was really important. What made the real difference? And I can imagine there had to be some consistency in it, but did you have an epiphany like, this is not working, I need to have a structure that will help me get well, you didn't have it to really have a shape that you wanted, but you know, you knew where you were wasn't the right place. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm self-taught. I used to read magazines, Men's Health, Men's Fitness, all the magazines growing up, and going online and reading lots. And now YouTube is more prominent in fitness, so you probably can get more information there now. But the thing that fueled me was the distraction part of it that I mentioned, but also I used to walk past the same mirror in a hallway of a house that I hated being in. And I used to look at myself every time, and I'd noticed a bit of change after a while, and that's always positive. When someone says to you, "Oh, you've lost a bit of weight," or "Oh, someone tells you you look different, you look happier," and if you see it yourself, that fuels you even further. So then the thing that I objectively used to do was I got an app called MyFitnessPal, which a lot of people probably use now, that tracks a bit how you eat, and then that gave me insight that actually what I thought I was eating, what I was actually eating, were completely different. And I don't use the app now. I don't sort of need it because you can just get a feel for what you're eating and how much you're doing. But it helped me track, because I was 5 or 6 stones heavier than I am now. And it helped me just track a bit of weight loss to a point where I could visually see it. And once I could visually see it, I didn't really need it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's getting that routine into place. And once you've built that muscle memory, you almost don't need the app. You can just
I think that's what people are surprised by. I did most of it at home. I didn't join a gym because like a lot of people, I didn't have the confidence to go to a gym. I didn't want to be seen by people at that point, and which is funny now because the gym now is probably my most confident place in the world. It's my second home. But at that time, I didn't want to be seen, and I didn't want to be working out in front of people. And the same thing that a lot of people feel. And it's important for other people who are thinking about going to a gym, whether it be now or in January or next year, that 99.9% of gym people really don't care. Like, they're not judging anybody. We're there to just do our own workouts. And most of the time, actually, if you come up to us, we'll help you out, because it's actually a very strong community. And I think that's important for people like myself before, and people in the future who are scared to go to gym, to realize that actually it's a really positive community.
Yeah, and the diet as well. Talk to us about that. How did that help?
Yeah, the diet, as I said, when I think back to it, it was shocking to me. My sort of junior doctor diet. It was the pizzas, the Subways, the vending machine, the full fat, full sugar drinks that
The
I've
stuff that
never had
tastes good.
now. Yeah, it was everything. It was everything. When you get those deals like 3 chocolates, we don't get them now, but 3 chocolates for £1. Those 3 chocolates I would finish on the bus ride home. And I think about it now and think, why did I do that? I'm not sure why I did that. I just was lost. I was lost, and food was my friend at the time. It's still my friend now, but it's the different foods that are my friends. The main change I made was bringing food with me to work. And actually, it's funny because I went to a supermarket and got this kid's lunchbox that has loads of different sections. And the adult version of the lunchbox costs about £60, and the kids' ones cost £5. So I bought the kids' one. And my mum, because I went back home to live, my mum would pack me my lunchbox as though it was almost like I was a little kid again. And she'd put different things in each section. And I'd take that to work. And people would look at me and then, joke about it. But that was the big change, because I wasn't going to the vending machine anymore. I had my eggs in my salad, or my chicken in my salad, my fruit, my healthier foods. And I had my whole lunchbox there with me. And plus, every morning when I used to pack it and I'd look into it, I'd go, oh, I got this today. And it was just exciting again. And that's why I've mentioned in other interviews that my mum and dad and my brother were my rocks at that time. Because when you go through things like that, you sometimes resort to a younger version of yourself. And I went back almost to being a child, where I needed looking after and helping again. And my mum and dad were those people to do that for me.
Absolutely. And it's important to have that environment to support you, to help you. And I'm sure it broke their hearts. It was painful for them to see you go through that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and we'll look at poetry again. That's played a big part in you recovering and, you know, getting back to the person that you've always envisaged. Talk to us about, you know, bringing poetry back in and using it as a tool to help you.
So poetry, even during my junior doctor years, I started writing again because my aim then was to write poetry and in a far off distant world, think about maybe doing a book. And I started writing a book. And in my low confidence phase, I threw that book away. And I don't have many regrets in my life, but that's one of them, because it had probably quite a good few poems in it that I could have used. But I just thought, who am I kidding thinking that I can write a poetry? Who am I kidding that thinking I can do this? So I chucked it away and it's in a bin somewhere in a scrap heap, who knows where. But I resorted back to that because I've always been quiet and I keep things to myself. But writing things down, I found was a good outlet for me. And then someone said to me, why don't you try going on Instagram? I thought, Instagram? I thought it was actually somewhere like you just put pictures on. I had no idea what Instagram was. And I didn't really like Facebook. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go, but I'm not hopeful. So I started posting a few pictures and more writing things down, writing quotes down, writing thoughts down. And I found myself getting lighter because it's such, like the gym community at the time then, Instagram was a very positive community. So people responded well to me and said, you know, there was a lot of support there that I was giving out and taking in. So I just kept writing. And anytime a thought or of a quote or a poem came into my head, I just went onto my iPhone, put it down, and that just accumulated over time. And I realized when people used to message me saying, you know what, your words really helped me, or something you wrote or something you said. I thought, I never thought about that. I think about it in my job when I do my job that, you know, I'm there to help the other person. But outside of my job, outside of my friend circle and people I help in everyday life, I never thought of a medium where you could help people en masse really quickly. And when people were giving that positive feedback and I got my confidence back, again, my life went full circle. And I thought, why don't I do the book? What have I got to lose now? I've lost everything at time. I felt when I've had that feeling where you feel like you've lost everything, I've got nothing to lose. So I'm going to go for it. And a lot of my thought process now, even though I have more to lose now, I still know what that feeling was like of having nothing to lose. So I've still got that fire underneath, and it's still, when it comes out, it's the most satisfying feeling in the world, because you feel that flame burning and you're like, yeah, you feel invincible and you feel unstoppable. And that's what I want people to feel. It's that unstoppable, irresistible force of nature that you will get somewhere no matter what is standing in your path, you will get there. And that's what I really hope people take away from any words I write or any of my story.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. You found your purpose, you know, and it's ironic, isn't it, that when you go through that dark period where it seemed like your world was crushing and everything was turning and against you, it's where you found yourself. It was like gold being refined, you know, and now here you are, impacting so many people more than you could have ever thought. You're doing great things. You inspire people, your writings, and just, you know, who you are as a person.
Thank you.
So,
that moment where you did hit that bottom pit place, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I'm thankful for it, because I say to people, it burnt every wire in my brain and it let me rewire it how I wanted to. And now I'm able to live the life that I wanted. I still have anxiety, I still have low days, and I'm not here to, that's part of the story now, is that even though I look different, I sound different, I speak different, I walk different, my life is different, I still can have down days, I still can feel those feelings again. And that's important to remember, that those feelings, those emotions have no outside appearance. It doesn't matter what your life looks like on the outside, you can still be feeling it. And that's why it's important for everybody to reach out to somebody and know that there is somebody out there waiting to listen.
Yeah, and that's what makes us human, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Dr. Francis, you know, you've gone and met somebody, you're in a very happy relationship, a very loving relationship, you're enjoying life, you're living on purpose. It's incredible to think again, you know, how things have turned around for you.
Even the relationship part, it's a strange one. Like my girlfriend Charlotte now is an amazing human being. She's one of the kindest souls you'll ever meet. She reminds me very much of my mum in terms of a kind heart, and that's the ultimate compliment. But for about 5 or 6 years, I was desperate not to get in a relationship, and I was so focused on myself that you feel that safety as well when you're on your own. When you make mistakes, it's you doing them. Whatever affects your life is you doing. You've got nothing else to rely on, or no one else to rely on, or no one else to think can impact on your life. So it took me a long while to get into relationships, and I had some along the way that weren't successful. But even when I met Charlotte, I wasn't looking for it. And when people say that old adage of you'll find love when you're least expecting it, it did happen that way. It was through social media, again, which was a medium I never thought I'd be on. It was someone who, like me, is probably an old soul, not from London, from a different area. And it just clicked, and it was just simple. It was simplicity. And now it's still simplicity. It's that sitting on a sofa next to somebody and feeling at home. It's going for a walk and knowing that you're safe, both ways. And it's just a kindness. It's difficult to explain, but it took me out of that shell of not wanting to be with somebody to actually being really happy being with somebody and feeling safe in that environment.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? It wasn't forced. It
No.
happened naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so inspirational. So we know you've got your books out. Could you tell us more about that, and how the audience can get a copy?
So it's not published at the moment. So unfortunately, that's what I'm trying to do, is get some. I've got it all ready now, and I'm trying to get some interest in getting it published, and then hopefully in the next year get it out to people. But again, even though I've had it ready for 6-7 months, like I said, I may have rewired myself to a point, but you still can get back into bad habits. So there was still, even though I had it on my computer, was still that thought of, actually, am I still good enough to do it? But that gets overridden by who I am now, and it's ready to go. So I just need someone to get on board with it, and then hopefully get it out. But it's my life in the last 8 years in poetry and in quotes. So it goes through the dark times to the happier times now. So that's why I say hopefully people relate to chapter 1 to 4 of it and parts of each. But it's more to know, if you read chapter 1 and you read chapter 4, there's that hope to get from 1 to 4.
Absolutely. And how can the audience connect with you?
The main one is through Instagram. So my Instagram is at Dr. DaSilva.
Fantastic. Dr. DaSilva, you know, your story again is absolutely remarkable. It's almost like a fairy tale, but it's real life. You went there, you went through that dark place. You know, you said you wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but, you know, thank goodness you went through that. And it's ironic because whenever I speak to people and when they overcome great tragedies, it's always, they're thankful for it. And again, you know, they don't wish it upon anyone, but what that transformation does is incredible, because they come out of their shell, they become this completely new person, a complete transformation. And you're impacting people much more than you could have ever thought. You've impacted me, you've influenced me, and you're doing great things. And, you know, when this book is out, it's going to impact so many more people. And I just want to celebrate you and honor you for the person that you are.
Oh, thank you.
You're a remarkable
really
person. To get through what you went through. Again, you know, as you said, you wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but what it's made you today is such an inspiration, and I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Amos. Like you said, it's been grateful. I'm grateful for everything I've got in my life. I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for the things that have happened, even if they've caused me pain, because they've helped me become who I am today. And I'm grateful for the smallest things. I don't actually need a lot in my life. I go to work, I go to the gym, and I get to eat my food, that pretty much sums up what keeps me happy, is my friends and my family. So it's not about searching for exquisite things or extreme things. It's just keeping the simple things that keep you happy. But you mentioned a word in your last sort of comments that you made there. That's a big word in my book. So I'm not going to say what the word was, but there's a big word you said in the last little thing you said. That's a big feature in my book. So you hit the nail on the head with that subconsciously, but you did.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll have to wait for that book then. We'll be eagerly waiting for it, and we hope to get you back on again soon.
Thank you, Amos.
Thank you very much. If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.